chapter 233 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Akrura's Bounty. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. News reached Dwaraka that Akrura was performing yajna after yajna, each greater than the other, in the city of Kashi, that he was spending money like water, that daily he fed thousands and thousands of poor people, and so on and on. At the same time, ill omens were seen in Dwaraka. Troubles visited several people, and the citizens began to talk. They said, years ago there was a king of Kashi who had been worried because there was no rain in the country, and the people were suffering as a result of this famine. Then there came to him a rishi by name Swapalka. The king gave his daughter Gandhini to him in marriage. After that, rains came and the country became happy once again. This Akrura is the son of the rishi Swapalka and Gandhini. The god of rain, Indra, is very fond of him, and so there is always rain where Akrura is. Also, there are no sufferings or disease where Akrura is. All this is true. But the ill omens seen in Dwaraka and the yajnas performed by Akrura in Kashi, and also the many auspicious happenings there, make us suspect that the jewel Semantaka is with him. Akrura is now called Dhanapati, the king amongst givers, and it seems as though our Krishna has given him the jewel and asked him to stay away from here. Nothing else can explain all these happenings. As is usual with rumor, its tongues, which are 1,000 in number, began to spread this story about Krishna, and to his dismay even Balarama and Satyabhama seemed to have lost faith in him. He could easily believe their telling themselves, perhaps the story is true. It seems probable. Akrura has always been a great friend of Krishna. Who knows? Again, Krishna had to vindicate himself in the eyes of the people of Dwaraka, and what was more, he had to regain the confidence of Balarama and Satyabhama. Krishna sent messengers to Kashi and had Akrura brought to Dwaraka. He came but very unwillingly and with great fear in his heart. Krishna made the people and his father and brother to be present in the council hall. Akrura was asked to come there. As soon as he came, Krishna walked to him with a smiling face and took his hands in his. Placing him on the honored seat, he treated him as a special guest. Everyone was watching this and eager to know what it was all about. What was going to happen? Krishna asked Akrura about his welfare and his new life in Kashi. He then said, I am told that you are acquiring a lot of punya by innumerable charitable deeds and by the many yajnas you have performed. I am very proud to know that you are now called Dhanapati, the king among givers. It is as it should be. But please clear one doubt in the minds of all the people of Dwaraka and those of my own people. Please admit to everyone that Shatadhanva gave you the gem Syamantaka. I have known this for a long time and did not want to take it from you, since you are doing so much good with it. So many are benefiting from it and you are the cause of it. But, my dear Akrura, you are the cause of something else also. You have made me seen as an accomplice in the theft. This is what the citizens of Dwaraka think, that I gave the jewel to you. Please convince them that I had nothing to do with it. Actually, since Satrajit died without a son to perform his obsequies, this jewel should be handed down to his daughter and her sons, who will offer rice until to the dead man every year. But we do not want it. You observe all the rules of purity so well, and you are a very good man. The jewel can stay with you. We really do not want it. Only, please be good enough to make my brother and my wife believe that I had nothing to do with you running away with it, that you did it on your own and not at my request. Shamed to the verge of tears, Akrura removed the upper cloth he was wearing, and out of a knot in it, he brought out the Syamantaka and placed it in Krishna's hands. Krishna held it in his hand for a while. His face was grim and sad, and after a moment, His old smile came back. He showed it to everyone assembled there and gave it back to Akrura. Krishna walked quietly out of the hall and no one spoke a word. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamast. Chapter 234 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Draupadi's Swayamvara. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 1 year had passed. Messengers came from Panchala to announce the Swayamvara of Draupadi, the daughter of Drupada. Krishna, as she was named, had been born of the sacrificial fire along with her brother Drishtadyumna, and there was a story behind it. Drupada had performed a sacrifice with a desire to get a son who could kill Drona, his enemy, and a daughter fit enough to be the bride of Arjuna. He admired Arjuna so much. But the fates had so conspired that the desire of Drupada was not to be achieved. The Pandavas had perished in the fire at Varanavata, and the king had to hold a Swayamvara for Draupadi. The feat which the hero was to perform was a test of an archer's skill. If not Arjuna, at least an archer near enough to Arjuna in archery was the desire of Drupada. Krishna knew already that the Pandavas had escaped from the house of the lakh. As though he knew nothing, he accepted the invitation for the Swayamvara. The entire Yadava clan went to Panchala. But Krishna, at the 11th hour, had told his son Pradyumna and his cousin Satyaki that they should desist from attempting the Matsya Yantra, which was the test. He wanted Arjuna to win the bride who was born for him. The 5 brothers would somehow manage to be there. He knew that. Thing happened as predicted. Arjuna, in the role of a Brahmin, pierced the Matsya Yantra and won the hand of Draupadi. Later, Drupada came to know that the Pandavas were alive and that it was Arjuna who had won Draupadi in the contest. Krishna and Balarama went to the potter's house where the Pandavas were staying with their mother Kunti. It was the first time the cousins met. They fell at the feet of Yudhishthira and Bhima. Krishna embraced Arjuna. Nakula and Sahadeva prostrated at the feet of the Yadava brothers. At that moment was formed a friendship between Krishna and Arjuna, and the decision on the part of Krishna to be with the 5 brothers through the troubles that were in store for them. A few months after this, Krishna went to Indraprastha with his cousin Satyaki to spend a few months with Yudhishthira and his brothers. Thrilled at the thought that they would all be together for some time, the Pandavas welcomed Krishna and Satyaki with great affection. Krishna went and greeted Kunti, prostrating before her and taking the dust of her feet. He said, "How are you? Is everything well with you? Now that your sons have come out of their hiding like the moon after an eclipse, your troubles must be over." Kunti looked at his smiling face. Her voice was hoarse with pain. Remembered pain is as terrible as the pain itself, and her thoughts went back to the days of their hiding. Their escape through the tunnel during the middle of the night, the long walk from Varanavata to the banks of the Ganga and again from the banks of the river to the forest, their troubled sleep there, Hidimba's death. It all came back to her mind vividly, and she related them all to Krishna, and she spoke of the final humiliation when they lived at Ekachakra on the arms brought by her sons. "Krishna," she said, "you are with us now, and that is enough. I can go through any amount of pain and suffering so long as I know that you are with us in thought and you will be protecting us. I knew it on the day you sent a Krura to Hastina long ago, after you had killed Kamsa. It is this love you have for us that has kept me hopeful all these years. I know that you are the Paramatma and that to you there is no illusion of I and mine. Still, you have been giving us your affection always, and we will not perish. Yudhishthira said, My lord, you are beyond the reach of the thoughts of the greatest of rishis who have performed tapas for years, and yet it is our special privilege that you are one with us, that you have taken a human form and name for the sake of beings like us. I do not know what good deeds we have done to deserve this. Krishna stayed with them through the rainy season. The 4 months were the happiest months in the lives of the Pandavas. The Rajasuya followed afterwards, and that was the end of their peace of mind. And then began their years of exile and its attendant sufferings. But now they were happy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamast. Chapter 235 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Kalindi, Mitravinda and Satya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One day, during Krishna's stay with the Pandavas, Krishna and Arjuna decided to go and hunt in the dense forest which was said to be inhabited by many wild beasts. Tigers, wild boars and gentle deer were there in plenty. Both the friends enjoyed their hunt, killing the wilder animals and frightening the deer and watching their frightened eyes when they ran. It was late and they were tired. Arjuna was very thirsty and they went to the banks of the river Yamuna. After quenching their thirst with the waters of the river, they sat down on the grass and rested their tired limbs. While they were seated there, they found a young girl walking towards them. She was dark and very beautiful. She halted when she was some distance from them. They could see that she wanted to come nearer, but was too nervous to do so. Krishna asked his friend to go and find out what she wanted. Arjuna approached her and said, A beautiful and young woman like you should not be wandering alone like this in this wild spot. Who are you? Whose daughter are you? Where do you come from? Is there any help we can render you? Are you in trouble? Tell us. She looked at him and said, I am the daughter of Surya and my name is Kalindi. I have been performing tapas with the desire of becoming the wife of Narayana. I have sworn that I will marry him or I will die. I have built for myself a small hermitage on the banks of the Yamuna, and I am spending my time waiting for the coming of the Lord. Now my prayers have been answered and I have seen him. She cast her eyes down when she saw Krishna smiling at her. Arjuna went to Krishna and related to him the story which Kalindi told him. Krishna went to Kalindi, who prostrated at his feet. He lifted her up. He placed her in the chariot and went to Yudhishthira. Kalindi spent a happy time with Draupadi and the other women in the Antapura of the Pandavas. It was during their stay on the banks of the Yamuna that one day Agni, the god of fire, came to Krishna and Arjuna and asked them to help him burn the forest by name Khandava. They helped him consume it. Indra tried to put out the fire since he did not want the forest to be destroyed. But he found the prowess of his son to be too much to cope with. When Agni asked them to help him consume the forest, Arjuna told him, If I have a powerful bow and a quiver with an infinite number of arrows, a good chariot and swift horses, then I can help you. Or else it will not be easy. Agni asked Varuna for help. Varuna, the god of the waters, appeared before them and he presented Arjuna with a famed bow by name Gandhiva, an inexhaustible quiver and a chariot which was drawn by 4 white horses, which earned for him the name Shvetavahana. Arjuna rode round the entire forest with Krishna, to whom Varuna had given the chakra. They prevented the creatures from escaping out of the conflagration. A few did, however, escape from the fire, and one of them was Maya, who fell at the feet of Arjuna and begged him for life. The rule set down for a Kshatriya is that he should not kill anyone who has surrendered himself, and begs to be left alive. And so Maya was allowed to go unscathed. In his gratitude, Maya insisted on building a sabha for Yudhishthira in his city, Indraprastha. When he returned to Dwaraka, Krishna married Kalindi according to Vedic rites. Vasudeva had a sister by name Rajhadi Devi, and she was given in marriage to the king of Avanti. She had 3 children. The 2 sons were called Vinda and Anuvinda, while the daughter was named Mitravinda. A Swayamvara was held when she was of the marriageable age, and Krishna went for the Swayamvara. Mitravinda had chosen Krishna as her lord, but the Avanti brothers, who were friends of Duryodhana, would not let her have her wish. Krishna knew that she had chosen him, and so, while the other aspirants for her hand were looking on, and while the brothers stood helplessly by, Krishna took her and carried her away to Dwaraka and married her there. Kosala was ruled by a saintly king by name Nagnajit. He had a beautiful daughter who was called Satya. People called her Nagnajiti after her father. Nagnajit had set a test for the prince who wished to marry her. He had 7 wild bulls and they were uncontrollable. They had sharp horns and they were known to be wicked and vicious. No one could tame them, and the king had said that he would give his daughter to the one who would be able to tame the wild bulls. Any number of princes went to the country of Kosala with the desire to tame the bulls and win the hand of Satya. Her beauty was famed the world over, and great was the desire in the heart of everyone who came to Kosala. But not one of them could tame the wild bulls. Krishna, too, was one of the princes who went there. King Nagnajit was pleased to receive Krishna, and he was very pleased and happy at the respect and deference shown to him by the young man. When he was conversing with the king, Krishna was seen by Satya. She had, like Rukmini, heard about Krishna and had been wanting to be his wife. Her heart was his already, and she was dreading lest someone else should achieve the difficult victory over the wild bulls. She prayed, and her thoughts were, if I have been really sincere in my vratas and pujas with this end in view, let them not go wasted. Let me be the fortunate one to have Krishna as my Lord. But then, what have I got, or what have I done to deserve so much honor? The gods in heaven are ever laying their crowned heads at his feet. Years of meditation and tapas have not rewarded rishis with the sight of the Lord. He has, for the good of mankind, assumed this form, and I have the audacity to want him for myself. I can only pray for his favor. The king then asked Krishna, to what do I owe this honor? What can I do to please you? Krishna smiled at him, and in a voice like the rumbling of a thunder cloud, he said, it has been said by the wise that a Kshatriya should not beg from another Kshatriya, but I am making an exception. I desire your friendship, and to forge it, I want the hand of your daughter. The king shed tears of joy and said, it is indeed an honor you have bestowed on me by asking for the hand of Satya. The goddess Lakshmi is forever dwelling in your heart. What greater man can I choose for my child? He paused for a moment and said, but long ago I have announced that my daughter will be given to the one who tames my 7 wild bulls. You must have heard about it. You must also have been told how many young men have met their end in the duels they have fought with these animals. I do not want the world to talk ill of me or of you. If I give my Satya to you without your achieving a victory over the animals, people are apt to say that I have broken my word, and they will talk despairingly of you too, that you did not dare to tackle the bulls. I know that to Krishna, who killed Shakatasura when he was a child, who could lift the Asura Trinavarta to the skies, who could lift up a mountain with his little finger, this task is contemptible. but please make the world believe that you won the contest and won Satya. It is a simple task I am asking you to perform." Krishna laughed aloud and said, "So be it. I will do what you are asking of me." He then asked to be led to the place where the bulls were tied up. Taming the bulls was like a child's play to him. He assumed 7 forms, and within moments of his touching them, they followed him like calves. Their pride was gone, and gone was their strength. He tied ropes round their necks and pulled them towards the stakes as though he were a child dragging toy animals made of wood. The king and others who were watching set up a shout of joy, and Satya became the wife of Krishna. The city was decorated very beautifully, since the princess was marrying a hero, and the hero was Krishna the Yadava. After the wedding was over, Krishna spent a few days with the king, and then, placing his bride in his chariot and followed by the army given by Nagnajit, Krishna returned to Dwaraka. The kings who had been unable to win Satya were naturally angry with Krishna, and they tried to fight with him while he was on his way to Dwaraka. After defeating them all, Krishna went to his city and was greeted with joy by everyone, since he had been away on a dangerous mission. Very few people knew who he really was, and to the ordinary men, the taming of the 7 wild bulls was a hard task, especially so since they were reputed to have killed several of the aspirants to the hand of the princess. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamast. Chapter 236 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Bhadra and Lakshmana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shrutakirti was Krishna's aunt. Vasudeva's sister, and her daughter was Bhadra. She was the princess of Kekeya. She became Krishna's wife. Lakshmana was a princess of Madra Desha. Like Rukmini, she was in the habit of listening to people talk about Krishna, and she wanted to be his wife. Her father, Brihatsena, knew what his daughter desired. He also knew that several princes were interested in her. He was not a very powerful king, and so he could not afford to incur their enmity by openly showing his preference for Krishna. He, therefore, set a test, and the winner could have Lakshmana's hand. The test was similar to the Matsya Yantra which Drupada had set up and which Arjuna pierced with 5 arrows. There was a slight difference, though. What Arjuna tackled was a target in the shape of a fish which was revolving at a height. The contestant was not able to see it directly. He should see the reflection in a vessel filled with oil which was placed underneath it. Looking at the reflection, he had to shoot his arrows and fell the Matsya. This fish could be seen clearly when one looked inside the vessel of oil. But the one set up by Brihatsena was even more difficult. The Matsya was covered. The contestant had to look at the vessel of oil in which the entire yantra was reflected, but the Matsya was not visible from outside. The archer had to gauge instinctively where to shoot and fell the Matsya. Many kings had assembled in the hall, and one after another they went to the dais where the yantra was set up. And one by one they came back without being able to hit the target. The Kaurava princes were there, and also the Pandavas. Seeing that Krishna had come as a seeker of the hand of the princess, Arjuna made up his mind not to try, remembering the Swayamvara of Draupadi when Krishna assumed the role of a spectator. Finally, when everyone had failed, Krishna went up to the platform. He lifted the bow and strung it effortlessly. He then took up an arrow, and looking inside the vessel full of oil, he shot the arrow. With a single arrow, he felled the Matsya. The sun was in conjunction with the star Abhijit when this was achieved by Krishna. The heavens made music and rained flowers on Krishna when the Matsya was hit by him. Lakshmana, dressed in white silks, walked to Krishna. Her face was down because of her shyness, and slight smile lit up the blush which suffused her face. Her steps were slow, and she looked like a swan when she walked. The anklets she wore made tinkling music, and there was no other noise in the hall. She stole a glance at him who was standing with a smile on his lips, and she placed a garland made of gems on his neck. There was great celebration which followed the event. Krishna placed her in his chariot and was about to leave when the other kings who had not been successful tried to stop him and tried to fight with him. Krishna's bow, famed by the name Sharanga, was too powerful for all of them, and soon they had to beat a hasty retreat. In the chariot driven by Dharuka, Krishna returned to Dwaraka with his new bride. All the 8 queens, Ashtamahishis of Krishna, were very happy, and among them Rukmini was dearest to the heart of Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.